live. Yep. Good evening. Welcome to the Wadsworth City Council Committee of the Whole Finance for Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. It is now 5:10, and the first item tonight is a roll call.
Copley.
Here.
Hines.
Here.
Parrish.
Here.
Renacci.
Here.
Rosberg.
Here.
Stugmeyer.
Here.
Yurcheck.
Here.
And Williams.
Here. You've all had a chance to review the minutes from our meeting on November 18th, 2025. May I have a motion to approve them?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes for the Committee of the Whole Finance for November 18th, 2025 has been approved. Tonight we're going to start out. We have a speaker. Ms.
Yes.
Fix, would you like to introduce him?
Yes, we have Mr. Brian Cooper from Baker Tilly. He provides municipal advisory services to the city, and in particular, he's going to speak on the 2026 debt that's in your budget book. If you have any questions, he's happy to answer those as well.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it. Good to see you, Mayor and members of council. Familiar with most of your faces, so it's great to be here tonight. My name is Brian Cooper. I'm a principal at Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. I'm a municipal advisor. I consult cities, counties, the state on debt issuance, capital projects throughout Ohio, and we have a national presence as well. I've been working with the city for many years, and as a municipal advisor, I think the most important part of my job is I consult the city as a fiduciary. I'm not, entering into an arm's length transaction, not selling anything. I'm here to provide you the best advice that I can as we move through financing. So thanks for having me in tonight. I've got a little presentation here. Kathy, if you don't mind going to the next slide. I just thought I would start off with a recap. Actually, this morning we closed, council members may recall, approving certain note issuance ordinances a few months ago. This morning we closed the $8.8 million, $20,000 various purpose notes, Series 2025. This note issuance funds for this year the several purposes, including downtown design, Tolbert water system improvements, water meter improvements, etc. So happily that closed today with no issues. Those payments due on that note issuance for next year are in the 2026 budget. The notes were issued with a fixed interest rate of 4.21% with a final maturity of December 1, 2027. It's a 2-year note. This gives the city some runway to finalize and plan other projects and to take that note out with a permanent bond in the future. The notes are callable after June 1, 2026, anytime on or after that date in whole or in part. Other debt this year, since we're recapping 25 in the amount of 3.7, was funded either internally or through state loan programs. So thought I would do that and then move on to the 2026 capital financing discussion on the next slide. And I've worked with Kathy and Matt on some of these discussion items. Happy to talk about any of these things in greater detail with you tonight. The current outstanding debt is expected to increase from approximately $46.7 million to $81.1 million. What is, in my understanding, that's what's currently in the budget for 2026. This is quite a increase, new debt increase of $39.9 million. But the important concept, I think, for the city is $28 million or 71% of that new debt is self-supporting enterprise debt. So when the city issues debt either out in the market, internally, or through state loan programs, the primary factor first when considering new debt is identifying a source of repayment. So for many of these things, sewer system, water system, electric system, these debts that are in taking out to fund capital are going to be repaid through revenues collected from those enterprises. So while the increase is substantial, about 28 million or 71% of the debt in the budget is considered self-supporting enterprise debt. There's new debt of 11.3 million. It's currently in the budget, which is about 28% for the downtown infrastructure project, and that would be if issued as non-tax, as tax-exempt, limited tax general obligation bonds would be essentially income tax supported or general fund supported debt. So that's $11.3 million. As I noted on the self-supporting debt, that debt and those future repayments are incorporated into the city's reserve policy and paid from each of those funds. And so, as I think another important key that the city has been working on is cost of service studies and rate studies help ensure that those funds are producing sufficient dollars to cover the future capital and debt payments moving into the future. So there's a little table there showing what's in the budget and how much of that is self-supporting. Looking more specifically, and we can jump around if there's questions or jump back, but on the downtown project, next slide, the total downtown project, the full build-out, is currently estimated at about 16.8 million. So of that, much of it is self-supporting, and about 11.3 is not considered self-supporting. So this is the 11.3 at the top of the table there. If the city were to issue that over time, as a 20-year bond issuance, the average annual debt service on that 11.3 million would be about $900,000 per year, 911. And we just did a round number, about $6 million. If the project was scaled back and $6 million was issued as non-self-supporting, the estimated annual cost would be about $481,000. The rest of the 16 million would be funded from storm, telecom, sanitary, sewer, water, and electric. So we wanted to provide that breakdown for discussion purposes, and then go from there in the conversation. So I'll pause there to see if there's any questions either about the city's overall debt profile or about specifically this particular project.
Mr. Cooper, do you have the amount for the debt service on the $8,020,000?
Mr. Williams, are you talking on page 3?
That would be 1, 2, 3, yes.
On the 8, on which number?
Well, we issued $8,020,000.
The 25 issuance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. So this is issued as a note. Approximately $320,000 of principal will be paid down in 2026, and then the rest would be amortized. I don't have that number with me on hand. I'm sorry, Mr. Williams.
But it's just for 2 years, basically.
Right, you're right.
Yeah.
So there's one
Term
principal payment next year for about $320,000, and then the note matures in 2027. And so that once these projects are ready for permanent financing, or if the city determines not to do permanent financing, then the notes will be taken out and the cost will be amortized over 20 years.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
President?
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. I just want to make sure I understand the numbers. Well, first off, when you say self-supporting, that's really coming out of the utility funds.
Yes, sir.
So it's really not self-supporting. It's self-supporting in the sense that our utility costs are probably going to be adjusted, which we know, so that we can meet not only the obligations, but to also meet this. So It won't be a taxpayer expense, but it will be a ratepayer expense. So that's part of it. The other number, though, that I just wanted to make sure I understood was the 11 million versus the 6 million, and that is in this project. I think that's the difference between doing A and modified A on the downtown. And I think what you're saying is, and I'm going to round numbers, but the difference in debt service coming out of the general fund, and tell me if I'm wrong here, will be approximately 400 and let's just say
420.
440 for 20 years.
Yes, sir.
So the city, by doing that, by going from level A to level B in the downtown, will be putting additional burden on the general fund by even if I use 400,000 a year times 20 years.
Yes, sir.
So that's what we would be, as a city council, would be, if we decide to go from the 11 million to the, whatever it is, 16 or 17 million.
It's, yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't have an exact number, so we just picked 6 million as a benchmark. Right. So a couple of things. Totally agree on the designation of self-supporting really comes from state law. And yes, this is a utility or enterprise-supported debt. There are user revenues that generate sufficient revenue to cover operating costs, capital costs, and debt service costs. So absolutely on that. And
by the way, the only reason I bring that up is there's people that are listening. One thing I've learned is people who get confused at home, and they sit there and they'll say, well, I don't understand that. Those were self-supporting, and it really doesn't cost. It does cost. It costs utility providers money.
Without a doubt. And the other thing I was going to mention is let me get my train of thought back here. When the city issues unvoted debt, such as the 11 million or the 6 million, we say this is income tax supported or general fund supported. But what it really means is the new debt costs additional money. And the two things that the city allocates its dollars towards are operating and capital. So when you issue debt, typically you're issuing debt to fund a capital item that you can't pay for from cash. But the cost of that is it starts to eat into either your operating or your future capital projects. And so when we're talking about the $911,000 per year for the $11 million project, or $481,000 a year for the $6 million project, you're gonna see that as revenue that does not get allocated to capital, and it does not get allocated to operating. And so that's the balance that is on council's shoulder to manage and to decide what's best for the city.
But that could also be compensated with rate increases of 10, 15, 20%.
Most certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that.
So that's the expense side,
That's
right?
the expense side.
So on the revenue side, the city has a great history of income tax collections and a modest growth of those collections over time. So that's an increase. We're not increasing the tax rate on residents, but as new businesses come, as residents move into the city, the population grows, salaries grow, you have a natural growth in your income tax. And that's like that here in all over Ohio cities. Mm-hmm. So you have a growth in your revenue over time. And you also have a growth in your utilities, the number of users, and rates that also help buoy the future repayment of new debt.
Correct.
The last thing I'll add, just for the conversation, is it does seem like a lot of debt, or you see this new debt and you're saying, what is happening? it is very typical for cities to go through what I call capital cycles. So the city had a big capital cycle back in 09, 12. You had a smaller capital cycle when we did the police and fire levy. And so it is a normal part of city management to see the incursion of debt to pay for new infrastructure. You're expanding, you're maintaining, you're improving, right? And then you see a pause, and then you amortize that debt over time. It doesn't stay there forever, but it's paid down over time. And so what I would say as a casual observer, and one that knows the city pretty well, is that right now you're at the beginning of a new capital cycle. There's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of improvements that's needed, and there's not necessarily, we can't pay for all of it at once. And so a very typical and common way we do that is through the issuance of debt.
I have a question. I feel kind of like I'm in a car dealership and I'm buying a car and you're giving me the lowest price possible per month. I want to know the out-the-door price of that $11,364,000 and the $6 million. When I did a quick calculation, the $11,364,000 is $18.2 million out the door after 20 years, and the $6 million is 9.6 out the door. So that's the total cost. I think we need to know, and the public needs to know, what the out the door cost, not the lowest payment possible available. And I think that is so important for all of us to make a good decision.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But I don't see it up there. That's why I'm saying that.
Yeah, I still agree with you. This is an annual cost, and this assumes a 20-year amortization on all of these projects. So you can simply take any of those costs or all of them together, multiply by 20, and you'll get the full payment. So when you borrow, the repayment comes in two components: the principal amount and the interest, right? And so the interest component is baked in to the borrowing. It does increase your debt. The city has a great debt policy that likes to limit not only the amount of debt, but how long that debt's outstanding for, in order to reduce and minimize interest over time. But you're absolutely correct. Every dollar you borrow, or $11 million you borrow it for a long time, you have to repay the full $11 million of principal plus the interest over that 20-year period, and it can equate to quite a large sum.
And that's why I brought that up. I felt like I'm being sold at trying the lowest possible monthly or yearly cost when I need to know the total out the door. And it's not, like I said, the public needs to know that, we need to know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, I hope that people just heard what I just said.
Thank you for that. I just wanted, but I had the same question, what is our total cost when you take what we want to spend plus the carrying costs? That's what the real.
The all-in cost.
That's what the project costs. So.
One more question. What is the anticipated borrowing cost, interest rate per se, on the 2026 capital financing?
So I would say that the approximate interest rate is under 4%.
Under 4?
Yeah, under 4%. The muni market changes every day. This budget's not approved, nor are the bond ordinances. So just because you approve the budget, whether this project's in there or not, whether you approve that does not authorize the issuance of bonds or authorize a borrowing.
Right.
So if council determines we're moving forward with this project, that's when we come back and we say, okay, and to Mr. Parrish's question, that's when we come back and we say, okay, here's the full structure of the bonds, including the principal and interest payments. Here's the terms. Here's the current estimated interest rate, and we'll give that rate down to the penny. Now, even then, just to shift from the budget to the authorization for debt issuance, even then, when council authorizes debt, even still, it does not compel you to borrow. So in other words, if the rate was today 4%, we're working it through council, but tomorrow there's a big market change and all of a sudden that rate goes to 6%, you're still not compelled to issue that debt. That is delegated, that power is delegated to the auditor to get the best terms for the sale. And we work very closely with the city administration when we sell the debt on what the final terms are, what the interest rates are, so that we meet the expectations of city council. One other thing is when let's say we're a year or at least 8 months away from issuing bonds for this project. This estimated annual cost is a projection from my perspective. We're saying, hey, this is how much it might cost 8 months from now. So we're already using rates higher than we think they are. So I think the rate would be less than 4% if I gave you a market rate. Right now, for projection purposes, for budgeting and making sure everything kind of works on a big picture, we're using 5%. So these payments are actually higher just for discussion and planning purposes, so that we know we're not winding this thing up too tight. And when we come back, if everything goes well, the rate will come down to something closer to sub 4%.
I have one more question. So I think it's fair to say, I lost, when Mr. Parrish was talking about cars, the real difference is the real difference between doing the basic process and the upgraded downtown is about $8.6 million just in general fund. But the one other thing that we're not talking about is the self-supporting enterprise funds will probably also go up some percentage, and that will be another cost that really is borne by this project. Now look, I think we've got to do the infrastructure. There is no doubt about it, has to be done. But I do think people need to realize that there's a cost hidden in the self-supporting enterprise as well, that it's hard to really come up with that number because we don't know what the increase is going to need to be to make those funds work. But it's important to know it's more than just $8 million over 20 years. There's probably another piece. Again, has to be done. Infrastructure has to be done. The question really is, do we spend the additional $8.6 million to upgrade the basic plan versus the upgraded plan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Yeah,
As always, great presentation.
It's great to see you. I'm welcome. I'm happy to come back anytime.
Okay.
Always love seeing you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to wedge in, we have a report from Director Hiscock. Ready to talk about budget?
Sure. Good evening, Council. Thank you to Mr. Cooper for the presentation. I thought maybe, if Council would like, it'd be an opportune time to discuss one of the handouts you have before you, which came out of our budget discussion, last budget hearing, if you will, and that was a desire to receive some information about different aspects of the project. And I think you were exploring, if I understood correctly, certain aspects between concept A, which has been referred to as the baseline concept, if you will, the hybrid concept, and then concept B, which is, if you look at the slide that is still up from Mr. Cooper's presentation, the $16 million project is concept B. The $11 million project in totals here is concept A. So the hybrid would fall obviously somewhere in between those two. But what you have in front of you is a document that provides not only costing information, but also some diagrams for purposes of explanation of some of those costs and how they might appear in terms of a site plan for the different aspects. So I know that at our last meeting there was a discussion about North Park, and in particular the removal potentially of North Park and what those costs might be. So I wanted to provide you with that. I don't know if there are discussions or questions that I can answer for you, but that information is there for your perusal. I realize you just received that, so it might take some time to digest, but hopefully that provides you with some of the information, if not all of the information you were looking for coming out of that meeting.
One question I have on the removal of North Park, it says shift curbs. Now, is that just the curbs on High Street that you're shifting?
Yeah, excellent question, Mr. Cobb. You're right. So my understanding of this proposal and the cost that's included in that would be you would remove North Park and you would shift the west curb line further to the east, if you will. So you would have wider sidewalks on that one side. Based upon the design's alignment, you wouldn't be able to do it to both sides of the street, but that would widen that side of the street.
But would that also affect the bump outs down on the square area? That's what I'm at. Is it all of High Street? Because when I look on the drawing, it really doesn't show you.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily, I would tell you, I guess my answer would be yes. It would affect all of High Street in terms of the alignment or the bump outs at the intersection, because you're trying to get into those new configured lanes that are a result of the removal of North Park.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Williams, would it be okay if we excuse Mr. Cooper?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I know you have a long drive.
Yeah.
Appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fix. Continue, yeah.
So don't know if we're good with that. I'll move on to some of the next handouts that were provided to council. So the next document would be entitled 2026 AP Council Requested Changes Budget. That name only is something that we used as we began work internally on reducing the deficit as we were asked. So for purposes of review, obviously after the budget hearing, we received some communication from Council President as well as some members of council about concerns with the deficit, in particular in the general fund, a deficit which was identified in your budget books at about 2.7 million. And we were tasked with removing that deficit. Quite honestly, I want to thank the folks around this table who worked tirelessly since receiving that information, along with myself, in terms of trying to do what we could to reduce the deficit. I would start with telling you that on that particular document that was handed out to you, if you turn to the second page and look at the revenue less expense line, which is the last line in that document, you can see that we've removed most of the deficit. However, we went from a $2.7 million deficit in the general fund down to about $162,000 in deficit spending right now. So quite a bit of work. With that, there will be quite a bit of effect on the services that we're able to provide to our community based upon those changes. I think it will also change personnel levels to a certain degree, and it certainly will have an impact on the day-to-day operations of our departments. So I can go through some of those for you, some of the high marks, if you will, in terms of some of the changes. So first and foremost, in the personal services area, really the operating expenses involved with personal services, we trimmed out about roughly $940,000 worth of personal services. That comes in several different categories, as you can see in that handout. Everything from wages and salaries to fringe benefits, pensions, employee benefits. I will point to a couple specific areas which I think council should be knowledgeable about and want to know and understand. Obviously, when we received the request to remove the deficit in the general fund, that was a tall order, and I think as part of that request, there was also a desire by council that we make removals and reductions without addressing the safety forces, which is a big player in the general fund, as you might know. It was pretty clear to me that we wouldn't be able to remove that level of a deficit if the safety forces didn't participate in some level as a team player in terms of some of the reductions. And in talking with Director Chafin, I'm happy to report that obviously they did take part in some of those cuts and reductions. I'll let him speak to some of them specifically, but let me talk about some of the personnel moves that we made in the reductions. We removed an engineering tech 2 position. That was, other than a court bailiff position, that was the only new position being proposed in your 26 proposal. So we removed that. In discussions with the judge, she is desirous of the court bailiff position staying in the budget, so it is currently in the budget. I will tell you that Judge Lewis did offer potentially to offset about $25,000 worth of that new court bailiff position fund or wages with some monies in what we refer to as the court special fund, if you will. But we'll have to work through some of those mechanics. So there is a court bailiff position in there. We did remove a part-time HR assistant position. The auditor's office removed a part-time accountant clerk 1 position, as well as a temporary income tax clerk. From the safety forces standpoint, Director Chafin authorized the removal of the 11th dispatcher's position. There was some remainder monies left over from an old part-time dispatcher position, which we removed from the budget. We also removed an auxiliary police officer position. We haven't had auxiliary police officers for some time. There are still 2 remaining in the budget, even with that removal. We then removed 7 general fund summer student positions from the budget. And then we moved into some larger removals in the personnel expense areas. And that included, if you might remember, during our budget discussions, we talked about wanting to increase the healthcare retention fund. That's the 720 fund, but obviously general fund departments contribute to that healthcare retention. So rather than hit the target of $900,000 in terms of that balance at the end of the 26 budget, we reduced that target to $300,000, which amounted to about $459,000 worth of savings within the general fund departments. In addition, we removed 7 separation costs from the general fund, which amounted to a little bit more than $227,000 in general fund separation costs in the 26 budget. So personnel-wise, those are some of the summary of what we did there. Contractual services was a discussion point. I know Mr. Renacci had asked me to provide some information on contractual services. I will tell you, Mr. Renacci, and all of council, I did not provide you with an itemized list of that because shortly after learning about the extent and the level of changes that were being requested, quite honestly, the information was changing. So I wasn't going to provide you information that might be misinterpreted or be incorrect or not worthwhile. So I certainly could do that after this discussion now, but I wanted to tell you what we did in the contractual service area. Overall, and on that summary sheet that was handed out to you, you can see that we reduced contractual services to the tune of $489,000. Some of the areas of contractual services which were reduced included some areas that I think will affect services and will have impacts on departments and the provision of services to our community. 4 major categories of contractual services that amounted to large changes and reductions of the deficit included some things that were priorities here at the city. Those included a plan review and permitting software package. That was something that was discussed for many years when we were trying to streamline the process for those who use planning services and permitting areas. It is a wide array of departments that are affected here, but we removed that entire project out of the budget at this point in time. In addition, the city's gone for many years without a work order software system. Many of the departments rely on a work order software system to not only plan, but to demonstrate the completion of services, to put work in sort of a scheduled atmosphere, those kind of things. Something we haven't done for a while, but something that we worked last year and some of this year on getting good quotes and software, and we're ready to move forward with that. We've delayed that and removed that from the budget at this point in time. something that was talked about, I think, at ED&P, and that was the desire to update the comprehensive plan of the city, some of the land use planning. That was placed in the budget. We've removed that from the budget at this point in time.
Good.
We also had additional funding lines that were throughout not only the general fund, but all of the city's budget to help fund vehicle maintenance, really to build back where we had a balance in that particular fund, the 714 fund. But we've removed all of those additional funding lines for that additional building of cash and balance in that area. So all of those have been removed from not only the general fund, but from all of the areas within the budget. So other contractual services that I'll mention to you, which is important in the discussion, include not only the work order management system, but throughout the area. I'll start with, there's been a focus on the administrative areas of the city. Defining that, I would say the administration includes the mayor's office, the auditor's office, the service director's office, the safety director's office, the HR department. You know, some of those areas, probably you could include some general government areas in those areas, but talking about some of the areas that we've removed from the budget, or at least shifted away from the general fund, include the Medina County Homeless Shelter, the $50,000 payment there. We've actually shifted that to another area of the budget outside of the mayor's budget at this point in time. But we did reduce the Medina County Trails Consultant area within the mayor's budget. In the service director's budget, we not only cut many areas of contractual services, but we went deeper than that. We really removed training and education requirements and things that we had in the budget. We removed all travel and meal reimbursements, which weren't much to start with, but we removed those. I reduced an outside project management number, which was $100,000 down to $50,000. That's an area that we've constantly used because things happen during the year dynamically, and there's things that we have to address in terms of professional services and projects. And with a project-intensive budget, you can imagine how much we've used some of those areas throughout the years. We removed IT and software-related items, some hardware-related purchases that were done. We removed things like not only attribution plaques and promotional items, but things like office requirements, office contractual services, our form and our share of the plan review and permitting software, since we would be a permitting software user. All of those things came out of the service director side. I'll let the safety director talk when he gets a chance a little bit about what he's done. I'll speak for, but certainly welcome Auditor Fix's friend. But Auditor Fix stepped up and made some reductions in her areas, everything from portions of administrative fees for RETA and the income tax collection, as well as some changes in local government conferences and those kind of things in her area, as well as looking at some costs in the audit areas. And so I appreciate the work that she did in offering up some of these reductions in that area. In the HR area, Director McCullough also offered changes in everything from education and meeting areas in her particular area, all the way through and evaluating things like the employee luncheon, the employee health fair. Those things remain in the budget as we sit today, but were at least evaluated with things that included many of the areas where she taps into professional services to help her in some of the day-to-day activities which she gets engaged in. Everything from contractual disputes with our unions and guidance in those areas to just legal fees in general. So she made quite a few changes in that particular area. I would tell you, moving on to some other non-administrative areas, we made some deep cuts in the engineering realm. Not only was it from the regards of removing one of their proposed positions, but we took into account some other areas. I mentioned the permitting software, which also had a form and a version that would affect that area. Well, we took away miscellaneous software as well as sewer video and GIS management software. We removed ArcGIS software needs. We removed master planning documents for both the thorough plan fair as well as the water and sewer master plans. We removed several different areas of contractual services in the engineering department, including inspection services and some other areas. I will tell you, we also addressed some areas within the street department. In particular, we reduced the funding level that was coming from the income tax fund to the street area, which is going to help the general fund, but it will prevent us from building the area of cash balance that we wanted to do in the street fund. It essentially keep that money within the general fund. But there were many areas that we looked at streets and reduced areas, everything from some of their training packages all the way up to some of their equipment, some of their supply needs and material needs. We removed structure personnel for leaf rakers for them. We removed Samsara video and GPS units that we were going to use to track the efficiency of what we do in seasons like this with plow work and those kind of things. They obviously were a big user of work order management system. That's been removed from their budget. So lots of areas within the streets areas that have been affected. We removed things from recreation. There is a planned replacement of pool lights as well as the construction of a basketball court at Freed Park. There will be no pool light replacement for the YMCA this year, and there will be no basketball court constructed out at Freed Park next year. Things down to in the areas of asphalt patching, snow plow devices, cold mix and concrete, all have been reduced to unusually low project and program management points. Things where if we have some of that work to do in the future, we will be coming to the next council to get funding for some of that work. We just removed it. We've reduced the annual striping program down to a level that we believe we can live with, but it's certainly not the level that was proposed. We've reduced the sidewalk program. I know that the sidewalk program was something that a resolution was even considered, and we should expand that. We've reduced that expansion down to a more annual level of sidewalk program area. We've reduced the replacement of street trees. It seems to be a hot topic every year. We've removed the new tree placement, new tree plantings. We've removed tree trimming and removal expenses from that area. There's an annual crack sealing program that we use for roadway maintenance. We've removed that annual program and certainly reduced it down to bare minimums. We have a rather large, the community probably doesn't see it, but we depend upon it. We have a really large concrete pile that was scheduled to be crushed and used as materials that we can use. We've removed all of that rental equipment, all of the consultant equipment to help us with that crushing of concrete there, so we've removed that. Airport, I know the airport's been a big discussion this year about doing more. We're forced to remove some of the things for the airport. We removed the additional snow blowing and snow and ice removal equipment from the 26 proposal. We've removed some of the professional assistance in that area. We had some money identified for an economic development consultant. We've removed that money from the budget. In the parks area, we've removed some replacement bleachers. We've removed mowers. We've removed batting cage and tunnels. We've removed continuing maintenance of some of the ball fields and upgrades to the ball fields. We've removed trailers. We've removed a dump truck. We've removed flatbed snow and ice packages. We've removed a brand new leaf machine from the proposed budget. Lots happening in those particular areas. Other than maybe handing off to Director Chafin to this point, I think that's the high-level items that I wanted to identify for you.
Can I ask you one question? I think it's, which I think, by the way, thank you for all your work. I think it's great what you've done there, but I want to go back to you. So you're going to not make the reserve. This is for the employee benefits. You reduced that from, I think, 900 to 300, but you're probably going to need more than 300, right?
We don't think so.
Oh, you don't, okay. Because I thought the way it would work is you would have to come back and say to the next council, oh, we didn't have enough reserves, but you don't think you need it.
It's certainly possible, Mr. Renacci, but we tactically made some of those reductions where we were trying to build a reserve in some funds. So while it was an expense to the general fund, we were really just moving those monies over to other funds to build healthy reserves. But there's no rule of thumb that says we had to do that all in one fell swoop. And certainly that was a major contributing factor to the cost in the healthcare area. So In talking with Director McCullough, we tried a couple of different numbers to where we felt it was comfortable. She believes that while 300 is not where we want it to be, we're okay right now. In particular, that area, health costs, healthcare costs, claims, there are variables. So I don't want to sit here and promise that I won't be coming back to the next council for a supplemental, but we believe the number is good for us at this stage of the game.
Thank you.
How many total vehicles did you remove?
I don't have that for you, Mr. Copley, but I can get that for you. We focused obviously on the general fund and balancing that area, but we did do, I will tell all of council, I made some rather extensive cuts throughout other areas of the budget too, and vehicles were not immune to those cuts. So. Director Chafee.
As the service director alluded to, obviously when I saw the email and the request for those cuts, taking a look at the budget, especially the percentage that safety forces encompasses, it seemed relatively obvious to me that we would have to be a good partner in this process as well, and also evaluate where we could make cuts. I would generally say that I would not have proposed these cuts unless I felt like we could still provide the same level of service. Might there be some inconveniences or tightening of the belt or whatever budget-related analysis you want to make? But I think these are doable. They're also done in consultations with our chiefs and supervisors. And I would say as safety forces are used to responding to situations outside of their control, they understand the big picture, they understand what's happening, and they're willing to make their contribution as well too. So on the dispatch side, I would say that in addition to cuts, there was also a revenue adjustment. Going into the budget process, I had become, I guess you could describe as less confident that there perhaps would be the 911 tax revenues that we were expecting. Having attended some county 911 meetings, I would tell the council now that I do feel very confident in those. So in addition to the cuts, dispatch also gets a $75,000 increase to the revenue side. As the service director mentioned, we are proposing filling 10 of our 11 dispatcher positions. That 11th position is currently open, so not filling that position moving forward. Although their education and meeting account is relatively small, making some cuts there, making some cuts to their equipment, tools, and non-cap. As we discussed, there was also the idea, the concept of, we have a backup dispatch center at Fire Station 2, and that purpose is essentially for if there was anything that ever happened to our dispatch center at Fire Station 1, if that became compromised, that would give us an opportunity to fall back on that backup center. As it stands right now, there's one radio console there, so if we were using it as a backup position, even if we had 2 or 3 dispatchers available, we could only actually have one effectively working. So that was a planned project for next year to the tune of about $19,000. I would say that, we have, while that would be something we wanted to do, we've made it work, and it's not something that we're using on a day-to-day basis. So that, I think, is a project that certainly could be moved down the road and evaluated at a later time. Taking a look at the safety director budget, again, cuts to education and meeting. Feral cat control was a question that came up at our last meeting, and we can certainly discuss that more at some point this evening, but taking that budget from 10 down to 5. My contribution to the work order software that has already been referenced, which was another $13,000. Safety materials and supplies for some of our public-related events like National Night Out and those things. Small cut, but a cut nonetheless. And then taking a look at the safety materials and supplies, that was a cut that would be used for the purchase of new speed signs or other things like that. It still leaves some in that account, but it makes about a $7,500 difference. Taking a look at fire, I would just say that the fire budget generally saw less cuts, and I would say the reason for that is there is a lot that is actually necessary. So looking at equipment inspections, whether that's the SCBA's, ladders, the trucks, the preventative maintenance for pumps and those things. But they did see some cuts in education and meeting. They had put in for a new IT, it was a software, a fire training program. was $1,800. That got cut. And then we made some cuts to materials and supplies IT. Chief's idea was to put on AVL. Those are units so that you can track them on our map in the dispatch center. It relays speed information, location information, would help with their ISO score. But in order to do that, we had to have wireless devices in those engines and have them outfitted. That was a $6,600 cut from their budget as well, too. From the police department, we cut a patrol vehicle replacement and then made corresponding changes to the upfitting for that vehicle as well, too. Next year, that essentially means we'd previously cut one cruiser to help offset the tower, the Marks Radio Tower. I would tell the council that while certainly something that we're not used to doing or would prefer to do, based on the timing and delivery of the vehicles that we've gotten this year and the timing and associated with the upfitting of those vehicles likely won't be in service next year. So if there is going to be a year to make this shift, next year gives us the best playbook to do that. We leveled out their education and meeting account instead of seeing growth. We saw cuts to IT software and support. That was going to be related to, we had discussed a purchase of a barcode scanning system for our property room officers. That helped us remove $3,200. It also helped us remove the actual purchase of the actual scanner itself. They had requested to add 3 portable radios to their budget. We cut one of those out. Those are actually relatively expensive at about $3,400 on an estimate. The Detective Bureau had requested some additional cameras to replace the one they currently have and to get an additional one for the on-call detective. We cut that in half as well, too. So I think in total, that was roughly like a net change on the police department to the tune of about $70,000, just over $70,000. Be happy to address any questions or concerns with those safety cuts as well.
Council, questions?
Whatever happened to the Dexatrack system that used to be used by the city for tracking repair work orders and that kind of stuff? I know you wanted to buy a new one, but we use Dexatrack, I know.
Yeah, so we did use Dexatrack up until the summer, but basically the company shut the product down.
Okay, thank you.
The last item I would just make reference to council, and I think many on council know this, others may not. You know, historically, the city has always performed well when we close our budget season. By that I mean we historically overestimate our expenses and underestimate our revenues. And that usually results in a swing in terms of for instance, well, we haven't gotten all the way there, but if we're showing a negative $162,000 worth of deficit spending in the general fund, if history tells us that means once everything is closed and reconciled, we're probably going to end up on the positive side because we won't have expended all of the dollars in the budget that we expected we might, and we probably brought in more revenue than we expected we might. And the 2 documents, which I won't walk you through, which I think helps describe that a little bit, are these 2 graphs that I handed out to you. One is for the general fund specifically, because I know that's been a focus of our attention most recently. And the other is for the entire city budget. That's the title, All Funds. But essentially that does reflect what I basically explained to you just now. It does show that while we were pursuant to a budget expecting this to happen, we ended up in a much better place. So I think that's positive for us. We again expect that to occur at the end of 25 and into 26. So certainly available to answer any questions you might have.
I didn't hear anything about how you're going to possibly improve revenues. What are we doing to allocate revenues or to find other sources of income to help offset this? I did not hear anything about that.
So obviously, Mr. Parrish, we continue to explore other sources of revenue in the forms of grants and those kind of things, and we'll continue to do that. But our primary source, certainly in the general fund, is income tax dollars. The administration is not proposing any increase to income tax dollars, if that's, or to income tax rates, if that's what you're asking.
I'm not asking about that, I'm asking about the other sources. The $50,000 for the step-up program. I've done some research, and the opiate fund is being used by the other cities. And we did not have that in our contract. That would have saved us $50,000 for the thing. The airport, we talked about doing the best we can to receive, up to 95% of almost most things through grants from the state and the federal government, exploring all those options. Those are just two that I've been involved with. And I'm hoping that we work on that and make that a priority, because we are in a deficit situation or possible deficit situation.
I can speak to both of those for you, at least from a high level. I did mention that we removed the
Yes,
$50,000 payment from the mayor's budget. What we did was put it into our One Ohio opioid fund.
Yes.
So we proposed it there. I don't know if Mr. Proudfoot wants to speak to anything based upon his research in that area, but that is where it currently resides in the proposed budget.
Well, I can tell you that those monies are limited to opioid remediation. I know other communities are utilizing that money, but I reached out to our administrative contact, and then I'm going to follow up with the state auditor to ensure that we're able to use those funds. I don't want to just say just because someone else is using the funds that it's okay. So I've already, like I said, I've already reached out to our administrator, and then I'm going to follow up with the Ohio auditor.
The legal opinions that I received from those other sources say they've done that already and found that that met the requirements.
So it is moved
Yeah,
to
so that would be one
current-
example, yes.
Yeah, it's housed there in that other
I
fund.
appreciate you doing hey, we always verify, always.
In terms of the airport, I think you know this at this point in time, but we didn't wait until the new budget season to get a consultant on board, and we
Right.
have one on board
Yes.
that is working diligently and put together already a capital planning document. December is an application deadline for the FAA. We're already working on those deadlines. So even though I mentioned the removal of a consultant, it was not that consultant for the airport. So that person is still in place, planning to be in place next year in the budget. We have that money in professional services for that individual. What we did remove was the additional consultant dollars, which was for an economic development analysis, but that came with a strategy. The state does an airport economic development
Yes.
analysis, I think every 3 to 5 years, don't hold me to that. But that's scheduled to be done soon, again, to be updated. Perhaps it's not as thorough as we would love it to be if we hired our own consultant, but we think we can use that information at least to get us through for a period of time.
And I commend you on that. That's why I just use those two as examples
Sure.
in the budget, that there might be other possibilities, and I'm hoping that we explore those. That's what I'm asking for.
Sure.
While you're on the airport, you did remove a piece of equipment to remove snow, if I understand it right. Is that the piece that will remove the snow and throw it all over the lights?
Yeah, that's exactly the piece that we removed. It's about a $230 implement that goes on the front of the new payloader that we acquired, that we received. But there's a reason there. We did acquire, along with the payloader, a box clearer and others. So we have devices to help us do a better job down at the runways and the taxiways at the airport, but it will not throw snow to the extent that this piece of equipment that was removed from the budget would throw snow.
Will it meet the FAA requirements of safety? Because I think that's the real issue. I mean, I still go back, one plane, one accident, and the city hasn't removed the snow properly, we got a problem. So does that take that concern away?
You know, Mr. Renacci, as you well know, and I think all of council knows, we can be sued for anything at any time, it seems like. We're not required to have that piece of equipment that throws it. We just aren't. But we have a requirement to clear the runway at certain times and certain occasions. We depend upon our FBO folks to do that, but we're providing them with the equipment to do that. So not only the new equipment that we provided, but the additional equipment that they have down there. If we were to have an accident involving a plane at the airport, as you all know, there are many factors, as a lawyer I would tell you, there are many factors that would come into play in determining liability on that accident. Whether we properly or improperly cleared the runway is just one factor. Should the pilot have been flying in that situation? Was it safe to land? Did they do the proper regards to our airport before they came to our airport? So there are many factors in an FAA crash investigation and a liability case that will come into play. It isn't simply whether we did or did not have the right implement to clear the runway.
Let me ask the question a different way, because I guess the FAA actually, I don't know whether they cited us or whether they said something that we have to keep the lights clear. So, you know, the runway lights. And the biggest problem was we were pushing snow and it was just going up against the runway lights. So are we keeping the runway lights clear?
I think that would be our objective. But this device that we've removed from the ballot would help us keep those lights.
Let me ask you this, is that device $200,000, could it also qualify for 95% funding from the federal government?
I don't think it can. That's what we looked for. It does not qualify.
Additional questions?
Mr. Hiscock, can you, the summary that you guys were reading, can you provide that? Is that in a format that it can be provided to council, or?
It is not, but I can get it in one. It was simply my notes from my budget book and the exhaustive cuts that we made. I made notes on that. What I can do is get to you perhaps a more itemized list of the cuts and
That'd be great.
what they were and where they were. I will do that.
That would be fantastic.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, we have one more speaker, but we're going to do the legislative review. You want to look at your committee of the whole items. Item number 1, we have a resolution. Mr. Parrish, would
Yes,
you like
sir.
to talk about that?
Prior to being on council, I sat where you guys are today, and I heard the council members ask for a capital plan, and they hadn't had one. And I even heard that they'd asked for several years. And of course, if you don't have a plan, you can hit it 100% of the time. And be able to plan for the future, the financial future, as well as expenses, and make good fiduciary decisions, you need a plan. And the current administration, in the 2 years, has started to provide a plan, but it's basically a list with no funding sources and how the priorities are set about. And then we had the electric issue where when the electric distribution went down. And then I found out again that we may need up to $40 million to do another inline through the city, so we wouldn't have that problem again. And that's why I also included not just a 5-year thing, but a list of possible things in the future that we should be aware of. And to do a capital budget, you need all those things. And so we have a good idea of the expenses that are leading in the future as well as now. And of course, it can be amended and it can change as needed, and it's time sensitive. And this is a very intense project to do. And they've done it for 2 years. And I think it's time that we put a little bit more oomph behind it. And that's why I said within the time budget season starts next year, they would have a little bit more detailed capital plan. And then the following year, even a more detailed. So it's a 2-year process on top of the 2 years that have already been there.
Any discussion, council? Councilmember Parrish,
Yes.
would you take that, please? And the number?
It'll be resolution number 25-15.
And I believe you're on, also on number 2, Mr. Parrish.
No, I'm not.
You're not?
No.
Who sponsored that?
Jeannie.
Jeannie?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hines?
This was just about, I had mentioned this to some of our administration. When we have a big project in the future, I think it would be great, especially for all of council and the public to know all of the funding sources and how many, where are the funding sources coming from, and approximately how long that project is going to take. For example, the water tower project. So we would have an overview of that whole project and how much it's going to cost overall. So, going back to like the Blue Tip Park, if we would have had like an overall view of the whole shebang, the whole project, I think that would have been very helpful. And, the engineering of it, and year one, we're going to do engineering, and year two, we'd like to do this, And obviously, as Mr. Parrish said, this can be changed and amended and so forth, but just to give us kind of an overview of the money involved and the expenses involved and the timeline involved and so forth.
Okay.
So we have for each big, these big projects that we have.
Any discussion, council? So what number will that be?
That'll be 2516.
And Councilmember Hines, you want to put that on a first reading, or what would you like to do?
First reading.
First. Councilmember Parrish, what are you going to do?
It'll be first reading.
First reading, okay. Then the next item 3, a resolution. Councilmember Renacci, would you like to address this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. This actually is a pretty simple one. I know sometimes when these resolutions come out, people read them the way they want to read them, but this resolution basically just says, and it's why it lists the revised codes, it lists all the code sections. We are a statutory city, and I think what happened at the last meeting is that we found that we do have some money going to non-for-profits that really should meet the statute and the law. So if you read this resolution, it's requiring, it basically requires, it doesn't say we can't spend money, but it does say that we are required to meet the statutory requirement, which means it should be in writing, it should propose a public purpose. This is coming right out of the law. This isn't, just writing something up. But I think it's a good place for council to say to the administration, look, if we're going to do some of these things, let's just make sure that it meets the law. So I would actually like to pass this tonight and suspend the 3 reading rules, because it basically is just saying that we believe anytime we do anything, it has to meet the law and the code. And I did speak with the law director just to confirm, and he can answer how he would like, but I wanted to make sure this was written. So all we're really doing is requiring the administration and city council, if we're going to pass something, to make sure that it meets all the requirements of the law, including public purpose, accountability, all of those things. And I don't know if you can address that.
Well, yeah, we had spoken earlier, so just so everyone knows, I went back through, reviewed the resolution, and essentially what it's doing is it's going through, it's touching on the different aspects of the Ohio Revised Code, the requirements that there are for whether it's donating, giving money to the nonprofits. And essentially all it's doing is just reiterating that, one, you have to make sure that it's for a public purpose, and 2, that the community of Wadsworth derives some sort of benefit from that nonprofit. I believe you spoke for a second there about contracts. As long as those 2 things are established, providing a derived benefit and also establishing a public purpose, generally you don't need a contract, but in a lot of instances, it's good to hold the nonprofit accountable. You can ask for quarterly updates. You can ask for yearly updates, making sure that the monies are being utilized, that the Wadsworth citizens are getting some sort of benefit from it. So, but I did go back through and review the resolution as was asked of me, and everything in there is like Mr. Renacci said, it's a reiteration of what's under the Ohio Constitution and the Ohio Revised Code, and everything that I've seen that's come through, we're doing that right now. So there's nothing out of sorts with this resolution.
Very good. Would you like to do this evening?
I'd like to pass it.
Suspend the call?
Three-year enroll. It's a,
Okay.
all we're doing is citing the law and saying we need to
Yep.
follow it.
Re-
25-17.
Okay, very good.
Mr. President, could I ask a
Yeah.
follow-up question related to that? And maybe it's best directed to Mr. Proudfoot. How would that, if it was passed tonight, how would that work with existing contracts and existing invoices currently?
Well, let me double check. So there's an emergency clause, which means the resolution goes into effect immediately once signed by Council President and the mayor. As you know, resolutions are not, they're not an ordinance. However, they are directives. So when it comes to any other current contracts that we have in place, I think it would just be on the renewal of said contracts, or it might fall on each department to follow up and just ensure that those are, one, serving a public purpose, and then two, that the city's deriving some sort of benefit from it.
Okay.
I guess a follow-up question would be, how is the determination made that it serves a public purpose, or what is the process for putting that forward so that we're in compliance with the resolution?
Well, I guess it depends on the nonprofit itself. So a public purpose would be that the community is getting something from it, whether it be, a whole emergency shelter where Wadsworth residents are being provided those services, down to anything that helps with a public interest. I believe we were looking at the Alley Cats contract. That serves, in my legal opinion, a public purpose. It helps with population control, it helps with that whole concept. So does that answer your question?
I guess my question would generally be, is there a process that we would follow, or what is that process look like? Is there a standard, and please don't take this the wrong way, I'm not asking to be contrarian to the resolution itself. I just want to know, somebody who currently has a program in place with Alley Cats and Aristocats, what that looks like currently and going forward for other future projects or programs.
I would only tell you the reason I wrote the resolution. I do think the CAT project meets the public purpose.
Meets the intent.
Okay? So that's good. And I think I said that at the last meeting. That probably met the public purpose more than donating money to a shelter in Medina, because those were dollars were to be spent on a public purpose. But I believe that every time we do something like this in the future, somebody on your side of the table, you probably the law director, is going to have to determine whether there's public purpose. And then, if I'm a member of council, I would want somebody to explain, yes, it meets the standard of public purpose.
And I think that's kind of what I was getting at is who is the arbiter of the public purpose? Is it a presentation to the law director that happens each time, or is it a presentation that happens to council each time? I guess I'm just looking for the actual step-by-step instructions for what happens.
Is there like a paper trail? Is there a form or some sort of
Yes,
something?
what
Yes.
does the process look like? And I guess well, I totally get, and I'm not trying to manufacture a scenario where this happens, but if I believe there's a public purpose, or some of council believes it's a public purpose, but that's naturally up for debate, where does that result? Where does the final word come from, and how do we go through that process? What does that look like?
If you read the statute, and Mr. Proudfoot can answer this, but if you read the statute and you do something that does not provide public purpose, you can be sued by the citizens of Wadsworth. All right, so what we really should do is always make sure we're providing public purpose, that's all. And I think the law director should be the person who probably arbitrates that and says, yes, this provides. I mean, it's like the shelter. I mean, I asked him if it, and I think his opinion says it does. So, I think city council can at least say, our law director said it meets the public purpose requirement. But I also do believe, and I think the law director and I talked about this, I think we should just button this stuff up, have an agreement, make sure that we have public purpose, have the ability to determine whether there's public purpose. I mean, if you give somebody $10,000, and you don't ever have the ability to go see what they did with the $10,000, that could be a problem, because you should have the right to go later on and see what they did with the $10,000 to determine whether it was really used for public purpose. So I just think this really helps everybody, protects the city, and makes sure that we are moving forward, determining and leaving the law director make sure that, but I do think it's going to come down to the audit department too. At some point in time, you know, the auditor's going to have to look back. If we wrote somebody a check for $20,000 and we don't follow up on it, and somebody determines that it had nothing to do with the city, that's not public purpose anymore. So we have to have the ability to understand where the money went and what it was done for.
Understood. And yes, that was, the example was Alley Cats and Aristocats, and I know that was a question posed last time, so I have more to discuss on that topic further if there's an appropriate time, and I don't know that it necessarily has to happen now during the resolution discussion, but those are just some questions that I had, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's still okay to move this to second for one time.
No, he said he's going to suspend and
We
call.
have one more meeting this year. We can move this to second.
Councilmember Renisi, what would you like to do? You're the sponsor.
Look, I'll take it to one more reading, but I
Okay.
do think it's imperative that we do this resolution to protect members of council and the administration. This just requires us to button up everything we're doing. And again, I saw something on social media that says, hell, we're giving money out to all kind of places. It'd be interesting to see if that's the case, if that's true. I mean, I learned a whole bunch, and it might be all false, but if we are giving money out to this entity and that entity and all these other entities, there should be an agreement. It should be public purpose, and we should just make sure that it's that it meets the statute requirements. So I'll move it to second reading.
We were provided information
You
from
got
the
the
auditor's
handout
office.
tonight.
It's in your red folder that shows that there are no other 501c3s that we've been given money to.
Oh. Yeah, so I guess there is things that we have spent some money on that we probably, somebody needs to determine whether it meets, the public purpose need.
The factor three that are listed on our handout is the Alley Cats Aristocrats, and that's just about, it's $4,500 approximately. Medina County SPCA, and we don't have a dog catcher, so I'm sure there must be some public purpose.
Well,
That's
what's
not
the
to be
explanation?
determined. And then Main Street, a requirement of being a member of Main Street is paying a fee. Those are the only three that are listed on our information that we support.
Is there an explanation for the SPCA? Why we give them money? Or have given them money?
It's charged to the street fund, 205. I'm guessing it's for animals to be picked up. I didn't have time to research, and
No,
I haven't
well-
done an extensive search for the donations, but that was from the list that was given to me, that was on social media, and then a few others that we found, but we can do a more extensive.
Okay, all right.
look at that.
Next item.
Mr. President, I was going to say, by the way, even Main Street, I mean, do we have an agreement? And do we have the ability to see what they're spending it on? And is somebody checking to make sure? I'm not saying they're not, but I do believe that there has to always be that public purpose, and who's doing that, even on that expenditure.
Okay. Item number 4, who would like to address that?
Thank you, Mr. President. This item requests a supplemental appropriation of $265,000. There's really two pieces here. $10,000 would go to the street fund, basically to pay for fuel for street vehicles for the remainder of the year. And then the remaining $255,000 relates to the electric fund, and that would cover potential expenses. So we're pretty sure we're going to have 2 more months of credit card fees that are going to hit this year, and that's fees charged for accepting credit cards for our utility bills or e-checks or debit cards, and the banking fees that go with it. That represents about $50,000 of that. 100,000, a little more than 100,000 relates to the kilowatt tax that we pay, and that's simply because we had more electric usage this year. If you remember, we had a little bit of a hotter summer. And then the last piece of that is $100,000 that would be, to have it there for our last purchase power or cost of buying the electricity. Any of the funds that are not spent would go back into the fund and would not carry over next year.
Yep, okay.
And I would request council consider suspending and calling.
Councilmember Copley, will you take
Sure.
that? Okay.
That'll be ordinance number 25-212.
Okay, that takes us to our regular agenda for tonight. We have resolution number 2512. Councilmember Renacci, would you like to address that?
Yeah, Mr. President, we need to amend that resolution number to 2513, and then I am okay moving this to third reading. I think it's, everything I'm hearing, I still believe this is a great request that we work on the sidewalks. I do realize that it appears there were some budget cuts, but I think it's asking for a plan. And if some of that plan includes the city doing some of it, the residents doing some of that, that's all part of the plan, and it would be good to get that finalized as well.
Okay,
So I would move that to third reading,
you're going to amend and then,
and then go to third reading.
okay,
I have a question, Mr. President.
yes.
In the budget, you indicated that you took off some monies for sidewalks. Is that not, don't we, property owner, don't we assess the property owner? Or can you explain where that came from?
Sure, there's a portion of the sidewalks that we do pay for,
Okay.
and that was the portion that was removed. Not all of it. It's just we had increased the program pursuant to discussions that was ongoing. We just reduced it back down to get more in line with what we've done annually.
Okay,
That's all.
thank you for that clarification.
I do have one question on that, too. So I understand there are sidewalks that, because of the trees that were planted by the city, the sidewalks are busted up. Is that a city responsibility, or because it's not the residents' fault? Who replaces those and who pays for that?
It's the city's responsibility.
So
If
there
it's
are-
determined that is truly a tree heaving situation, that's part of that amount that I just referenced. That's part of the city's
So
responsibility.
you've removed that from the budget so that...
Not all of it. I've just reduced we increased the sidewalk program in our initial proposal based on time. I've just reduced it back down to our normal annual amount. In the range of our normal annual amount. It's not exact.
Okay. Any other questions? Ordinance number 25-205. Councilmember Parrish, what would you like to do with that?
I'll move it to third reading, unless the administration has a need.
Okay. Ordinance
Third
number
reading.
25-208. Councilmember Hines. It's on second reading.
Would the administration prefer that I call or move it to third?
Was this- Oh, this is the investment income. Yes, whenever you're comfortable passing, and you can either pass it tonight or go one more reading. It's for the investment income.
Yeah. Move that to third. Ordinance number 25-209. Councilmember Rosbert.
Yes, I talked to Ms. Fix, and I think we're going to call that tonight.
No, we were gonna
read-
wait because
Yeah, that's right,
it's
we're going to wait on
probably
that.
gonna
We're
change.
going to move that to third.
Is 25 changing? 25 is not changing.
Ordinance number 25-210. Councilmember Rosbert.
We're going to move that to third.
Okay. Ordinance number 25-195. Councilmember Parrish.
I will go call that tonight.
Call. Okay. Ordinance number 25-198.
That's the budget. You're going to call the budget?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's not do that.
Yes, I'll move that to fourth.
Okay.
I apologize.
Ordinance number 25-198. Councilmember Yurcheck.
I'll call that.
Ordinance number 25-199. Councilmember Renacci.
Call that.
Ordinance number 25-200, Councilmember Parrish.
Is the administration okay with that calling? We'll call that? Yes. Okay.
Call that one. Ordinance number 25-201, Councilmember Stugmeyer.
We're discussing those in service or whatever. I'll just put that to fourth.
So, I mean, there truly is discussion about adding a full-time employee.
Right, and redoing the job descriptions because they are way outdated.
So we'll be ready to take action on this at our next meeting?
I would hope so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we need to.
Yeah,
You know, it's the end
by
of
the
the
end of the
year.
year, uh-huh.
Okay, so you're going to,
We'll move that to fourth, yeah, fourth.
okay. Ordinance number 25-203, Councilmember Renacci.
Call it.
And also the next one, resolution number 2511. It's on the cable.
Mr. President, I'm going to actually ask that this be removed, but I do want to make some comments on that because I think it's imperative. I mean, this resolution, again, stirred up a lot of issues because the real key was trying to get the information that was necessary for me to be comfortable, but I also think other members of City Council be comfortable that we were moving in the right direction with this $10 million expenditure. I can tell you that I did meet with the administration, myself, Mr. Yurchek, and you, Mr. Williams. We met. I will still say that I have concerns that we went down a path of putting this, do we need fiber? Yes, we need fiber, but I'm concerned that we didn't have an outside study. I'm concerned that we didn't have an outside review. I'm concerned that we went down this path. And I'm also concerned that the projections, although they can be made, I do have some concerns about the projections. I mean, the projections are going to require a significant increase in internet customers, up to 23%. What I also learned in my meeting that out of those additional internet customers, instead of, I think right now we're around 6,000, we're guessing that we're going to get to 7,400, 7,500. Out of those amount of internet customers, we're assuming 40% are going to do Wadsworth streaming. There is so much competition out there. In fact, what's amazing is that I've been hearing ever since I started this, from people saying, you know what, I didn't realize I can go to this carrier and get it for this price. And the only reason I bring that up is that it's a little bit different today than it was 35 years ago when we had cable. And the only place we were competing, it was Time Warner and Wadsworth. Today, we're going to have multiple people to compete with, and there's also going to be more competition coming. This is definitely a big issue. So, I still believe that this could be a concern for the city. Quite frankly, I'll be watching, but I am concerned that if this thing does not meet the expectations and that the competition is to a point, I mean, this whole process could lose money down the road, which will be a strain on the budget. But I think in the end, in a few years, we'll be able to determine who was right, who was wrong. I hope the city's right. I hope the projections are right. But I do fear, without having a full-blown evaluation on a $10.5 million project, we went down this path hoping that, and probably planning to be successful, but I do have extreme concerns that, a projection is a projection. We could do better, but if we do worse, we have definitely risked a situation that could be problematic for the city 3 or 4 years down the road. But I still will ask that we remove this resolution and move forward.
Okay, and you'll remove that. You have a question?
Yes, I agree with the removal. CityLink has tremendous service compared to others. But I am worried about the streaming part, the 40% of the new customers being streaming when there's so much competition. That is a worry for me also.
Okay. Any other comments?
I echo the exact same, and I want to go on record that I do not feel that they can meet the projections that they're proposing from what I've seen. And I don't appreciate some of the comments that's coming out of the communications department about me. And I want to go on record that I will be watching. Thank you.
Mr. President, one other thing. I mean, I have to admit, when you say something on city council, you get, I think the employees of the CityLink are great employees. I think they work hard. I think they do their job. I think they're doing the best they can. This has nothing to do with the employees. This really is a concern of, because we did not have an outside study, because we did not have an outside review of this and an independent review, I just hope the numbers are accurate and it works over the next 4 or 5 years.
Thank you. So let's move on to ordinance number 25-178.
Call that.
Okay. And ordinance number 25-176. Call. And then again, 25-128.
Call.
All right, and that brings us to the end, and I want to, no.
We have a speaker yet.
I'm sorry? Yeah, I know.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
But before we move to that, I just want to thank Director Hiscock and, Director Chafin and everybody involved with that budget review. It's much appreciated. Yep, thank you very much. I know there was a lot of hard work in a short period of time, and I believe there was a holiday in the middle of it. So, again, thanks for all your hard work.
Mr. Williams, I'm going to echo that, and I'm so grateful and appreciative that you had noted that, because that was a tall order,
Yeah.
and this is an amazing group. So.
Yeah, a lot of hard work. All right, we have one more speaker tonight. I see Mr. Sipos in the audience. Huh? Okay, yeah, get to work. Thanks.
Good evening, Council, administration folks. My name is Skip Sipos, the Executive Director of the Medina Metropolitan Housing Authority. I'm here tonight to try to help answer some questions and provide clarification for Council as it relates to the operating needs of Next Step Up, Medina County's only emergency housing shelter. Quick review. The shelter is the result of careful planning that was done with stakeholders throughout Medina County. It is owned and operated by the Medina Metropolitan Housing Authority, which is a political subdivision of the state of Ohio, a unit of government, a body corporate and politic for the law director's benefit, not a nonprofit organization. It serves men, women, and children 24 hours a day, every day of the calendar year, with 27 beds and 2 cribs, and sadly, oftentimes those cribs are full. It serves people from throughout Medina County. And all guests, and we call them guests, who come to the shelter are provided with case management service, comprehensive case management services that address the root causes that brought them to shelter in the first place. It could be the loss of a job. We could hook them up with Ohio Means Jobs, jobs for Ohio graduates. It could be issues with mental health or substance use disorders. It could be simply some family member kicked somebody out. The Medina Metropolitan Housing Authority's jurisdiction is county-wide. The operating budget for Next Step Up is $600,000 a year. There's no state funding this year for the shelter. We were able to secure a one-time special funding grant for calendar year 25. For calendar year 26, the state said new shelters cannot compete. Even though we're not new, we opened in February, we're not allowed to compete. So we turned to our stakeholders in the county to make sure that we operate Next Step Up next year. If I leave you with anything tonight, everyone here who's here tonight, if you are poor in this country and you are food insecure, if you need food assistance, you can go to Job and Family Services. If you're eligible, you get it. It's a federal entitlement. If you're poor in this country and you need medical care and you qualify, you get Medicaid. It's a federal entitlement. There are no federal entitlements, no state entitlement in Ohio if you need affordable housing or if you are homeless and need shelter. Communities have to compete to receive resources that might be available, and that's what the Housing Authority does. We compete for every dollar we get, and have to perform to retain it. I believe I've answered a ton of questions for the administration. I'm hoping they've been shared with you relative to the shelter. I understand your time constraint, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you coming. I think we all know the need and the service you provide. I think it was more the financial aspects of it. I know there was members of council that had questions.
I
Now's
think
your
Mr.
time.
Proudfoot did a great job summarizing in his, that we got at 4:30 today. I mean, it explained a lot of the stuff that I wanted to know about the contracts and stuff like that there.
Excellent. Glad to hear that.
Mr. Sipos, again, I appreciate you responded to the questions that I actually sent to the mayor, and I want to thank you for those, because that actually did justify that it is, in my opinion, that it meets the qualifications. But I did have a question, because it's $50,000 for 1 year. Are you coming back every year, or is this just a one-time, we just need $50,000, we're never coming back again?
I certainly would never commit to never coming back to anyone for resources, Councilman Renacci. I'm sure you can appreciate that. The situation is that typically the state of Ohio partially funds shelters. You have to compete. Housing Authority in this county competes really well for everything they do. You have a copy, I believe, of the most recent impact report that shows the kind of results we're getting with the intensive case management that we have, working with all of the service providers in the county. We should be able to compete from the state level next year, which provides a portion of that. Will we need to turn to the 3 cities, the county, Job and Family Services, perhaps Veteran Services like we are this year? Perhaps. I'm pleased to tell you that in 30 days I retire, and someone much younger and with much more energy and probably intelligence will be running the Housing Authority. So you may see them at this podium, but I can't commit to you that we wouldn't be back. But for next year, for calendar year 26, to keep this momentum going, especially the use of the opioid settlement funds, I think is a great investment on behalf of the city of Wadsworth.
I do have one more question. Why wasn't the villages and townships asked to participate in this?
Simply from the idea of the incorporated areas, the unincorporated areas, the county commissioners have committed $100,000 to the operating budget next year. And in addition, the County Commissioner's Department of Job and Family Services has found a way to use some federal money, depending on which the guests are. They have to have dependent children in the household, and you've got to be left-handed on Tuesdays. I mean, there's a weird provision, but we've been able to draw their money down this year. And so our expectation is and the grant has been approved, the contract has been approved for next year. So going to the villages independently, we believe that going to the county commissioners covers that.
Okay.
So suppose one other question, and I know I asked administration, maybe you have the information. When somebody's homeless, I assume the police are the first response, and then the police call you, hey, do you have a bed? And then you determine. So and you listed a lot of people that were served in Wadsworth, but I was wondering
Quick protocol, I'll help you understand, and the former chief can probably nod his head, I hope, when I share this. Law enforcement's our best friends. Law enforcement comes across homeless people all the time. They don't want them on the street. They want them off the street. The protocol that we have in place, because the shelter's open 24/7, every day of the calendar year, they can call us. If we have a bed available, they will transport. And once we know that they're transported, they're not going to transport somebody that's going to pose a danger. They're not going to have weapons. They're going to, that kind of a thing. So the relationship with the law enforcement folks all over the county, including the Parks Police, they're our first kind of line of defense, if you will, in bringing folks to us. But it's also our faith-based friends. Lots of times folks in need go to churches. St. Vincent de Paul Society and Sacred Heart are our best friends here in this town, helping to make sure that folks that are in need in Medina County, in Wadsworth itself, are getting served. But the police department will transport to us. If we have a bed, we take them in.
that protocol, which is exactly what I was looking for. What happens if we have a homeless person in Wadsworth, they call you, you're full?
We have a protocol in place to work with those same partners, like St. Vincent de Paul, other churches. We have a small pot of money that we use for hotel stays so that we can at least get them off the street that night, and then when a bed opens up, we can bring them back in.
Okay, so you do, because I know St. Vincent de Paul spends money putting them in a hotel.
And they're spending a lot less of that now because of Next Step Up.
Okay.
Mr. President, as it relates to the law enforcement contact, and I realize that was a question, and so if it's appropriate now, I'd be happy to offer that information and also maybe some other insight from a law enforcement perspective. So the question of how often does this happen at the police department? And is this a trackable number, and is this something that we could provide to council? I would tell you, unfortunately, I don't have a call code or a call type that makes that level of detail very easy, because our call types are driven by the criminal nature of the call. So it's not a real easy report. But we did find that in recent history here that as officers are interacting with these individuals, they've essentially removed their address and inputted homeless. And so I would just say that that was not administratively directed or not something that is done across the board. So as a data point, I would just say it's not perfect, and that likely means that there's more beyond that, because I can tell you it's not something that everybody is universally doing. But as a starting point, in the last 5 years, we had 148 calls for service where individuals were known to be homeless. What types of calls are we talking about? Assist householder, trespass, suspicious person, CPO notification, disorderly conduct, drugs, mental illness, warrant service, theft, menacing, burglary B&E, alcohol-related, and welfare checks. I would also say that in examining those calls, what stands out to me is that it is very uncommon for us to have one interaction with those individuals. It is repeated interaction with those individuals. Talking to the officers.
So does that number include maybe repeats?
It does include repeats, but it's unique captures of incidents where officers are going out there. So you could have somebody with 6, 14, 21, one individual that had 43 interactions with the police department who was homeless. I would say that is a unique case in and of itself, but the common theme is the repeated contacts. So same individuals, repeated contacts. In talking to some of our supervisors directly, their comments were, we deal with these folks over and over again, and that's a problem. While we appreciate the hotels, and St. Vincent de Paul has become, I think the term was best friend, they had become a best friend of ours for a while because we didn't have a resource or any other options when we encountered people that were homeless. But that is effectively a Band-Aid. It solves a problem for a night, a couple nights. It certainly does not compare to being able to take somebody to next step up with their comprehensive services. They also mentioned, look at the Walmart parking lot overnight. We have homeless individuals. A lot of them are living out of their cars. Back to that initial data point, I would say if you run that license plate, it's going to come back to an address, because I need an address to register my car. I need an address to get a license. I only renew those things every so often, so while my address 2 years ago when I was in housing, well, it looks the same on my driver's license or it looks the same on my car, I still may actually be homeless. And so that's why I say there's probably a lot more beyond just those 148 contacts. Taking a look at the point in time counts for the last HUD and MMHA count in January 25, I thought it was surprising that there was 40 people in Medina on one night where they did the survey where there were people that were homeless. That counts both sheltered and unsheltered. 12 of those who were unsheltered, well, they found them in parking lots in Medina, Wadsworth, and the truck stops. In talking to other mental health professionals in the county, I think their comment when I first brought up the topic was, well, we need more space. We need more space than we have currently. But a point that they brought up that I thought was interesting, and maybe this changes with the source of funds, but if I was a taxpayer, I'd be concerned with accountability. Is this just a shelter where I go and I'm there? Am I working on anything proactively to change my situation? Am I doing anything to help? Are there still drugs and alcohol involved? And I would say from their comments, but also being able to tour the facility as well too, is that's where Next Step Up to me is very different, because it is very programmatic in its nature. They've got caseworkers, resources, they're creating plans for these individuals. And if they're not making progress and they're not being held accountable, they're not staying. I would say, again, this is just one man's opinion, but I think they have found the sweet spot of balancing grace and accountability in these situations, and I think that's important. They can't have drugs or alcohol in there. They have 24/7 monitoring. They have things like household chores. So today might be my day to take out the trash. It might be the service director's day to empty the dishwasher.
I always get the dishes.
We're going to change next week, don't worry, it's all right. But there are expectations, they're not even providing food. We'll provide you access to grocery stores and the resources to go get your own food. If you need to learn how to cook, we can help you do that, but it's on you to do those things. There's community integration, churches who are coming in, employers who are coming in to offer jobs. Their location is key. It's intentionally set up because it's in walking distance to AP, mental health services, behavioral health services, the health department, banks, metro housing, grocery stores, job and family services. And I thought the one comment that was really key from this mental health professional in the county was housing is the foundation. If you have a mental illness, if you're schizophrenic, we can get you to a doctor, we can get you to a psychologist, we can get you medications. But if you don't have shelter, it doesn't work. And so I think one way of examining this is community commitment versus financial commitment. And I certainly understand, especially in light of the budget discussions that we've had, is that it's a significant commitment, and there should be robust debate and robust consideration for those dollars. But we don't have a way to provide this ourselves. We don't have a way to do it on our own. And I think that the model that they're using is effective. And so I don't want to steal Mr. Sipos' time, but I think that perspective from a law enforcement perspective or an individual is important.
I'd say
Well, thank you for that.
I'd say the director did better than I did. And all of our stuff is kept great databases. So we have the data to be able to provide reports and accountability.
Mr. Suppose, are you willing to, if this is approved, is your organization willing to sign an agreement or contract that actually allows for accountability, so council?
I believe the answer to the question that you posed to the administration that was given to me is yes, of course, providing it's reasonable.
Thank you.
I do have one question, Director. What do you do with school-aged children? Do you try and keep them in their district? Do you transport them from the shelter to, how does that whole thing work?
Former Congressman will probably remember that there's a federal law, the McKinney-Vento Act, that requires the school districts who have homeless households to continue the education in their home district. So if we have a Wadsworth family, a school-aged child in shelter, they're responsible to make sure that that child continues education in the same jurisdiction. And I will tell you, and I've told this to others, the Wadsworth school system, it works with us the best. They have the best staff members. They're proactive. They're working with ways to do it. But by law, the school systems have to do that, and that's where the relationship that we have with all of the school districts comes in handy.
So the school district provides the transportation?
The transportation, making
question.
sure the student continues to be educated in its home district.
Thank you, very good.
All right.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much, folks. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for waiting. Any other comments? We're at the end of the agenda. I'll
Mr.
entertain a
President?
motion. Go, yes.
The only other item I would add, and if now is not the appropriate time, but I know the questions were raised about alley cats and aristocrats, so I'm prepared to provide more information about that if council deems necessary or appropriate at this time.
The auditor provided us with some numbers from last year, how much they received. Do you have numbers for this year?
Sure, and just a little bit of background about the program for clarity, because I thought there were some good questions and as it relates to the nonprofits and everything else. So we've been doing the program for about 2 years now, and it's a TNR program, which is trap, neuter, return, which is a widely accepted, humane way of addressing cat colonies and populations. Alley Cats and Aristocrats is a nonprofit, but the city does have a contract with them, and that contract has provisions that clearly spell out what the public service and public good is that they're providing. So why would we partner with a nonprofit in the first place? And number one, and I think the easiest answer to this entire thing is that because as a city, I don't have a solution or an easy way to handle the problem of these cat colonies and the growth in these cat colonies. We have a code enforcement officer that also serves as our dog warden, but his job does not include cats or animals in general. We don't have the facilities, the equipment, the training, or the ability to transport these cats for vet-related services. We did require, when we signed this agreement or when we explored this in the first place, was for the entity that handled it for us was to have insurance. That way, if something happens when they're doing these activities, that's their insurance's responsibility. It doesn't fall back on the city. And obviously, individuals are probably not able to have that insurance coverage, so that provided a reason to need a nonprofit with Alley Cats and Aristocrats. I would like to be very clear, it's not a donation to their organization. It's essentially a pass-through of costs. We're covering the spaying, neutering, vaccinations, dewormer, flea treatment, euthanasia, antibiotics, and all of these treatments have to be deemed medically necessary by a vet. So what does the cat population look like right now? There's approximately 116 cats in various colonies throughout the city. 3rd Street, Reimer Road, Highland, Main Street, Sunset, West Wolf, and Franks, they make up 26 cats in 1 square block. Broad Street, Water Street, King Street, Rainbow Street. And with that Rainbow Street, that's a really good example. In the beginning of 2023, there was 35 cats in that area. Through roaming, TNR, the colony now is about 12. Only one of those have not been spayed or neutered. Alley Cats and Aristocrats have done their own efforts to do their own fundraising. They're covering the traps, they're covering the transportation. It's very volunteer heavy and intensive. And again, the only cost that we are taking is essentially the medically necessary costs that they are giving us invoices for. We do get invoices. I have an opportunity to review those. So there's a lot that goes into that. Obviously, if no one was addressing the problem, cats multiply. And depending on the sources that you look, some can be very extreme, but in 1 year with 4 cats, that turns into 9. That turns into 19 to 43 to 94 to 206 in a 5-year span of time. So I'm grateful that somebody is willing to step up and take care of this because, again, I don't have an easy solution to solve the problem with. This year's spend on the batch of invoices that have just come in looks like we'll be right around $2,120. I think in talking to the volunteers and representatives of the organization that we work with, we both felt that a reduction from 10 down to 5 would more than cover our expenses and costs next year. But it does remain an important service for the city.
And I see in the information here that Ms. Fix provided, the 4464 paid in 2024 and 0 in 2025, is that because the invoices just sent in at the end of the year?
On the desk,
okay.
Yes.
Pretty obvious, yeah.
So-
I'll entertain it.
Well, I was gonna
Anything
ask
further?
One more question. So what starts the process? Because I think since this came up, and remember, I think at the last meeting, I said this probably meets public purpose more than anything. So there's stray cats walking around. Does somebody make a phone call? How does that start? Because there's stray cats in my backyard.
Yes, so if you'd like, we can provide you the contact for the cats and aristocrats. I'd be happy to forward an email as well, too, and be that conduit. I would say they've done a really nice job of identifying these, getting phone calls from people in the community, but then also returning to those areas and interacting with the people in those neighborhoods and streets and kind of maintaining that contact so that they're aware of what's going on. I think maybe we've only had one instance where there was some confusion as to why the cats were drawn to a particular area during a trapping session, but otherwise I think they've done a good job. So they are out and about, they're getting feedback from the community. On occasion, we might, through one of the public safety arms, get that information and pass that along, but would be more than happy to make the connection before the meeting's over so that we can get the cats in your neighborhood addressed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. If nothing else, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. If there's anybody that would like to leave the chambers, we're going to start right away for our regular council. Good evening. Will the regular meeting of Wadsworth City Council for Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025, please come to order? Will you please rise and pledge allegiance to our flag and remain standing for the invocation? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, who has given us this good land to be our heritage, we acknowledge our dependence upon you for all things, and we thank you for all your blessings, including the right and privilege to govern ourselves in this free land. We pray that you would grant us all wisdom to make good decisions for the future of this community. Through Christ our Lord, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Copley.
Here.
Hines. Here. Parrish.
Here.
Renacci.
Here.
Rossbert.
Here.
Stugmeyer.
Here.
Yurcheck.
Here.
Williams.
Here. You've had the opportunity to review the minutes for the City Council meeting on October 29th, October 30th, November 5th, and November 18th, 2025. May I have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes for October 29th, October 30th, November 5th, and November 18th are approved. Are there any visitors who want to address council? Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments brief to 2 or 3 minutes.
Hi, Tina. I live at 495 Rolling Hills.
I think we need it for the record, your last name.
Oh, Alan Kalesser with a K, like kitten.
Okay.
Do you want me to spell the rest?
No, that's good.
Okay.
We'll pick it up, yeah.
I had so much information here, but really, after hearing the comments, I think Mr. Chafin did a good job of going over the program. Just to clarify for you guys, though, I think the guys on the committee understand this. There is a difference. Wadsworth Alley Cats is literally a Facebook group. I moved to town, saw an issue, went to the mayor and Mr. Hiscock, asked about who was addressing it, and learned there was actually money in the budget. So there just was nobody running a program. So together with my neighbor and friend, we put together, a Facebook page, gathered a group of core volunteers. However, we have full-time jobs, and this is strictly volunteer run, and we don't have the desire or the resources to do a 501c3. However, the city needs liability insurance, which threw us into a position of needing to partner with a 501c3, and we got together with Alley Cats and Aristocats. Totally, I would say totally separate entities, except for the fact we need to partner with them. And part of the benefit for us is they have a retired CPA who does their treasury, and Alley Cats pays those bills. Then they invoice the city. The city reimburses them. We are not given $10,000. I handle no money to do with any of this. And I'm saying that just so the public who's listening or watching or whatever understands how it works. We do all the intensive labor as volunteers. But this isn't a, excuse me, this isn't a social experiment. This isn't a labor of love or whatever. This all came down to being a public health issue and a way we could give back to the city. So we're not given the money. We're only given back what we put out. We put a dollar amount on it. We only came and asked for the upgrade because if you look at the about 230 cats we've touched in the last year and a half since we've been doing this, that bumps up against the $5,000. And just like the city pads the budget kind of to under-promise and over-deliver. That's all I was asking for. Could we have $10,000 so when it is $6,000, we can continue to do the work and not have people calling us or contacting us and having to turn them away? So that's where the added ask was. And just to go back to my last thought on it, who decides if it's important enough to fund us? In my estimation, was the Public Safety Committee. I sat and explained everything to them more than once. I come back a couple of times a year, and I'm completely transparent about all the work we do. And I'm here. If you have any questions, you can email me, wadsworthalleycats@gmail.com. And if you guys have any questions, let me know.
We don't
You're
address,
fine?
so, yeah.
Okay.
If you
Okay.
stick around afterwards, you
Okay.
may have some questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address council tonight? Seeing none, we'll move into our next item is correspondence.
Yes, I received one item from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control regarding a request for a new liquor permit for Wadsworth Square Commons located at 151 Main Street, which was updated. If council does not object, I will return the request to the Ohio Division of Liquor Control by the end of the week.
There's no sense in asking my normal question of the
Yeah,
safety director.
Yeah, it's
It's
new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, in my list, where'd you put it? Okay, thank you. That takes us to committees and commissions. First one, Public Service Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Service Committee will meet next Tuesday, December the 9th, 5:30 PM here in council chambers.
Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Copley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next meeting in public safety will be on Wednesday, December the 10th at 4:30 PM here in council chambers.
Public Ways Committee, Councilmember Rosberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Ways will next meet on Monday, December 8th at 6 o'clock here in these chambers.
Economic Development Planning, Councilmember Yurcheck.
Thank you, Mr. President. Economic Development and Planning Committee will next meet on December 8th at 5 PM in council chambers.
Committee of the Whole met tonight at 5:10, where we went over several things on the budget and also tonight's legislation. Airport Commission, Councilmember Stugmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Airport Commission will meet on Wednesday, January the 7th, 4 PM here in council chambers.
Stormwater Commission, Councilmember Copley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next meeting of stormwater will be on January the 13th, which is a Tuesday at 5 o'clock PM here in council chambers.
Shade Tree Commission, Councilmember Hines.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Shade Tree Commission, the next meeting will be determined. We don't have a date yet.
Planning Commission will next meet on Monday, December 8th at 7 PM in council chambers. Cemetery Board, Councilmember Yurcheck.
Cemetery Board will next meet on Wednesday, the 17th at 5 PM in council chambers.
Cable TV Commission, Councilmember Copley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next meeting of Cable TV Commission is tomorrow, Thursday, December the 4th at 4 o'clock PM here in council chambers.
Senior Citizens Commission, Councilmember Parrish.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The Senior Citizens Committee will meet next meet on February 2nd at the Suprema Center at 3:30 PM.
Very good. That brings us to the reading of the legislation tonight.
We'll start with first readings. We have resolution number 25-15 on first reading, sponsored by Councilmember David Parrish and discussed at Committee of the Whole. A resolution requesting the city administration to prepare a comprehensive 5-year capital plan and a listing of major infrastructure projects and other capital for years beyond that fall outside the 5-year capital plan and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we place resolution number 2515 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Resolution number 2515 has been moved to second reading.
Resolution number 2516 on first reading, sponsored by Councilmember Jeannie Hines and discussed at Committee of the Whole. A resolution requesting the city administration to provide complete cost information for all capital projects and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we place resolution number 2516 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Resolution number 2516 has been placed on second reading.
Resolution number 2517 on first reading, sponsored by Councilmember Jim Renacci and discussed at Committee of the Whole. A resolution declaring that the City of Wadsworth shall not provide municipal funding to nonprofit organizations, establishing policy limiting such funding in the future, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we place resolution number 2517 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Resolution number 2517 has been placed on second reading.
Ordinance number 25-212 on first reading, sponsored by Councilmember Ralph Copley and discussed at Committee of the Whole. An ordinance to make a supplemental appropriation of $265,000 in various funds for purposes other than personal services for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025.
Mr. President, I'd like to suspend the three reading rule on ordinance number 25-212.
Second.
Yurcheck?
Yes.
Rossbert?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Renacci?
Yes.
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Copley?
Yes.
Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. President, I call the question on ordinance 25-212.
Hearing no objection to Councilmember Copley's proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of ordinance number 25-212?
Hines?
Yes.
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Copley?
Yes.
Rossbert?
Yes.
Yurcheck?
Yes.
Renacci?
Yes.
Parrish?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-212 has been adopted.
And our second readings, resolution number 25-12 on second reading, sponsored by Councilmember Jim Renacci and discussed at Public Ways. A resolution requesting the city administration to prepare a comprehensive plan to repair and replace damaged sidewalks throughout the city of Wadsworth over a 3-year period and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we amend resolution number 2512 to resolution number 2513.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. President, I move that we place resolution number 2513 on third reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Amended resolution, resolution 2513 has been moved to third reading.
Ordinance number 25-205 on second reading, sponsored by Councilmember David Parrish and discussed at Committee of the Whole. An ordinance to amend sections 35.44 and 35.46 of the codified ordinances of the City of Wadsworth to increase the compensation for the clerk of the municipal court and for the chief probation officer and for the probation assistant, and to declare an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we place ordinance number 25-205 on third reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-205 has been placed on third reading.
Ordinance number 25-208 on second reading, sponsored by Councilmember Jeannie Hines and discussed at Committee of the Whole. An ordinance to authorize $2,474,113 in transfers for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025, and to declare an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we place ordinance number 25-208 on third reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-208 has been placed on third reading.
Ordinance number 25-209 on second reading, sponsored by Councilmember Dan Rossbert and discussed at Committee of the Whole. An ordinance to amend sections 34.36 of the codified ordinances of the City of Wadsworth to provide for the allocation of income tax receipts of $3,967,105 during fiscal year 2025 and to declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we place ordinance number 25209 on third reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-209 has been placed on third reading.
Ordinance number 25-210 on second reading, sponsored by Councilmember Dan Rossbert and discussed at Economic Development and Planning. An ordinance to establish 2026 fees for sections 53.16, 97.15, 150.009, 150.078, 150.081, 150.082, 153.054, 153.095, 154.540, 155.05, 155.09, and 155.10 of the codified ordinances of the City of Wadsworth and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we place ordinance number 25210 on third reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-210 has been placed on third reading.
And our third readings, ordinance number 25-195 on third reading, sponsored by Councilmember David Parrish and discussed at Committee of the Whole. An ordinance making appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Wadsworth during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026, establishing a new system of funds and accounts, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we place ordinance number 25-198 on fourth reading. Excuse me, 195 on fourth reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-195 has been placed on fourth reading.
Ordinance number 25-198 on third reading, sponsored by Councilmember John Yurcheck and discussed at Committee of the Whole. An ordinance to amend Sections 35.41 of the codified ordinances of the City of Wadsworth to change the compensation rate for the volunteer fire service and EMS service employees and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move to call the question on ordinance number 25-198.
It's on third reading.
Where is it? Which one? No, I know. Which?
198.
Okay. Hearing no objection to Councilmember Yurcheck's proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of 25-198?
Renacci.
Yes.
Stugmeyer.
Yes.
Copley.
Abstain?
Parrish.
Yes.
Yurcheck.
Yes.
Rossbert.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-198 has been adopted.
Ordinance number 25-199 on third reading, sponsored by Councilmember Jim Renacci and discussed at Committee of the Whole. An ordinance to amend Sections 35.47 of the codified ordinances of the City of Wadsworth to change the compensation schedule for various city officers and employees and to provide a 3% wage increase for said various city officers and employees in calendar year 2026 and to declare an emergency.
Mr. President, I call the question on ordinance number 25-199.
Hearing no objection to Councilmember Renacci's proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of ordinance number 25-199?
Copley.
Yes.
Yurcheck.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Parrish.
Yes.
Rossbert.
Yes.
Stugmeyer.
Yes.
And Renacci.
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-199 has been adopted.
Ordinance number 25-200 on third reading, sponsored by Councilmember David Parrish and discussed at Committee of the Whole. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract with Structure Personnel Incorporated for the leasing of employees from said employment agencies to be responsible for the seasonal flushing of hydrants, the seasonal collection of yard waste and leaves, and other needs, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I call the question on ordinance number 25-200.
Hearing no objection to Councilmember Parrish's proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of ordinance number 25-200?
Stugmeyer.
Yes.
Parrish.
Yes.
Copley.
Yes.
Yurcheck.
Yes.
Rossbert.
Yes.
Renacci.
Yes.
And Hines.
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-200 has been adopted.
Ordinance number 25-201 on third reading, sponsored by Councilmember Tom Stugmeyer and discussed at Committee of the Whole. An ordinance to amend Sections 35.43 of the codified ordinances of the City of Wadsworth to compensate the playback technician at $19 per hour and to declare an emergency.
Mr. President, I make a motion to move ordinance number 25-201 to a fourth reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ordinance number 25-201 has been placed on fourth reading.
Ordinance number 25-203 on third reading, sponsored by Councilmember Jim Renacci and discussed at Committee of the Whole. An ordinance to authorize an advance for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025, and to declare an emergency.
Mr. President, I call the question on ordinance number 25-203.
Hearing no objection to Councilmember Renacci's proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of ordinance number 25-203?
Parrish.
Yes.
Yurcheck.
Yes.
Rossbert.
Yes.
Copley.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Stugmeyer.
Yes.
Renacci.
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-203 has been adopted.
Resolution number 25-11 on fourth reading, sponsored by Councilmember Jim Renacci and discussed at Committee of the Whole. A resolution requesting that the city administration begin the process of rolling back the city's provision of cable, internet, and fiber services and to cease further expansion of such services and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move that we remove resolution number 25-1111.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Resolution number 25-11 has been removed.
Ordinance number 25-178 on fourth reading, sponsored by Councilmember John Yurcheck, and discussed at Economic Development and Planning. An ordinance authorizing the execution of a development and tax increment financing agreement with Addison Wadsworth LLC and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move to call the question on ordinance number 25-178.
Hearing no objection to Councilmember Yurcheck's proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of ordinance number 25-178?
Renacci?
Yes.
Parrish?
Yes.
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Copley?
Yes.
Yurcheck?
Yes.
Rossbert?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-178 has been adopted.
Ordinance number 25-176 on fifth reading, sponsored by Councilmember John Yurcheck and discussed at Committee of the Whole and forwarded by the Planning Commission. An ordinance to amend sections 154.035 and 154.083 of the codified ordinances of the City of Wadsworth pertaining to general development requirements and condominium developments and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move to call the question on ordinance number 25-176.
Hearing no objection to Councilmember Yurcheck's proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of ordinance number 25-176?
Parrish?
Yes.
Rossbert?
Yes.
Copley?
Yes.
Renacci?
Yes.
Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Yurcheck?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-176 has been adopted.
Our last one is ordinance number 25-128 on sixth reading, sponsored by Councilmember John Yurcheck and discussed at Economic Development and Planning. An ordinance creating the Addison Wadsworth Tax Increment Financing TIF Incentive District pursuant to sections 5709.40, 5709.42, and 5709.43 of the revised code, declaring improvements to the parcels within the incentive district to be a public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, requiring the owners of those parcels to make service payments in lieu of taxes, establishing a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of those service payments, specifying the public infrastructure improvements that benefit or serve parcels in the incentive district, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move to call the question on ordinance number 25-128.
Hearing no objection to Councilmember Yurcheck's proposal to call the question, will the clerk please take a roll call vote on the adoption of ordinance number 25-128?
Parrish?
Yes.
Yurcheck?
Yes.
Rossbert?
Yes.
Copley?
Yes.
Hines?
Yes.
Renacci?
Yes.
And Stugmeyer?
Yes.
Ordinance number 25-128 has been adopted. Any other business tonight?
I want to thank all the city services and everything for a successful candlelight walk a couple weeks ago. We had about 5,500 people down, is what the numbers showed, even with the rain coming in at the end. And the final first Friday of the year, Santa Claus is coming to town, is this Friday. So too many events to mention. Head over to the Main Street Wadsworth Facebook page to find out what's going on, 5:30 to 8.
Anything else?
And also on Saturday, the Light Fest is the opening of the Light Fest, and we have over 105 trees this year, plus a lot of other things, thanks to Lowe's, the city, the library, the Main Street, and many others for the help, and it's going to be a wonderful event.
And I understand there's some pretty good Christmas tree holders down here this year that
Yes.
somebody made.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything further? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.